afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Darian Jones. I am the caregiver or the digital and development specialist here at Care Partners. We're so excited to have you join us again for another hot topic. Today's topic is actually a very interesting one. We're going to be discussing what does the term sundowning mean, and different things to look out for in your loved one, and then also just some different ways to work with your loved one to help manage this behavior. So we're super excited about that. We'll get into that in just a minute. Before we do get started, I would just like to say, as always, if you ever have any questions or comments or something that you would like to see us cover, or if you just want to share your stories with us, we would love to hear from you. You can always email us at info@carepartnerstexas.org. And you can always visit our website also. We have so many different resources online. You can get all of the information about our upcoming caregiver conferences and events. And so our website is going to be carepartnerstexas.org. And you can also always give us a call at 713-682-5995. And speaking of caregiver conferences, really quick, I wanted to mention that we do have a caregiver conference this weekend in partnership with New Covenant Church. It's going to be a hybrid event, so we're actually doing in person and online. You can find more information about that at empoweringthecaregiver.com, or you can visit our website, carepartnerstexas.org, go to our events section and look for the Empowering the Caregiver Conference. We'll have some more information about that later after our topic today. And I think with that, I'm super excited to introduce you to our guest today. It is Leah Stanley. She is an amazing author and speaker and former caregiver and current caregiver. So she has so much experience, and I'm just super glad that you're able to join us today. Do you want to take it away, Leah?
I can do that. Thank you, Darian. It is great to be here as always. Care Partners does such amazing work. I'm always so glad when I can be part of what you guys are doing. It is really special to have an organization like this that reaches into the lives of caregivers so much. And so with that, let's look at this topic of sundowning. This thing is a mess for people who know what it is. If you have a patient, an Alzheimer's or a dementia patient who has not experienced sundowning, consider yourself very blessed because it is a bear. In addition to contending with just ordinary dementia symptoms, it sort of takes, it's like dementia on steroids. It's like it levels up a little bit from what you normally would be seeing. I've experienced it watching my grandmother deal with her father. This goes way back to when I was a teenager. And at the time, I don't think anybody quite knew what to call it. But looking back now, knowing what I know now, that's exactly what was happening. I've also seen this really prominently in my father-in-law, we are currently taking care of him. Both of these patients had Alzheimer's. And like I said, these are things I've seen firsthand. So if you have not had to deal with it, like I said, you're very, very blessed. Consider yourself very blessed. Well, I guess the first question, let's kind of tackle that for a minute. What is sundowning? Sundowning is sort of a term that was not really a medical term. It's not, the scientific community did not medically name this. It was actually named because of the time of day that it generally seems to occur. The specifically Alzheimer's patients will be coming through the day and everything may be fine. The morning is good, lunch is good, the afternoon may even be okay. But as the day gets long and as the sun begins to go down, or even as it starts to get a little dusky and the room starts to get a little darker, it's just that moment where you're thinking, do I need to turn the lights on? You will notice a shift in the behavior of your loved one. They may become suddenly more agitated. They may suddenly feel the need to get up and pace. And this is in addition to anything they've done normally. If they are normally an agitated patient, this is like the next level up. You can definitely tell there's been a shift in the mood. And it can be unsettling, especially if you don't know what is happening. And that's the worst of it. It's hard to peg down. Unfortunately, like everything else associated with dementia, it's not like you can go take a blood test or, have something done to determine, I see, this is sundowning. It's not that easy. So a lot of patients will notice, or I say patients, the patients' families will notice an increase in agitation. And it's not necessarily confined to the time when the sun is going down, although, again, that does seem to be a large number of patients experience that mood shift at that time. For my father-in-law, what we saw with him, he would be fine in the morning, and after lunch, anywhere between 1 and 3 o'clock was fair game. That man would start sundowning. You could see the shift in the mood. He became very, very agitated. He became much more confused than he was even normally. Anything you were trying to get him to do, if once that started, it was over. You couldn't seem to communicate with him, and it was very exasperating. My in-laws recently moved here, and they had been living in Tennessee, and we wanted them to come down. We knew that my husband's father had Alzheimer's, but we, were trying to sort of encourage them to, why don't you guys come on down here in the Houston area, live closer to us. That way we can help you out. And finally, my mother-in-law said, yeah, it's time for us to do this. So she sold the house. And so my husband and my daughter and I went up to help them pack the house and get everything ready. And it was remarkable how we watched every single day that my father-in-law would be fine in the morning. And like I said, we would eat lunch, but seriously, anywhere between 1 and 3 o'clock, that man just unraveled. And he became a very agitated and aggressive at times, very aggressive. You could not get him focused on a task. He would ask me a question, well, do you need help? And I'm packing boxes. And I would say, yeah, you know what you could do, Papa? Can you tape this box up for me? I need another box, and we've got more stuff to put in it, but this box is all folded up. Can you put this box together? And like I say, in the morning, it was fabulous. He was just over there taping away and it was marvelous. I mean, it was exactly what we needed. In the afternoon, oh my goodness, he would start and then he would put it down and he would walk agitated. And the thing was aggravated about that had taken place years ago, he would bring it back up and he would start wanting to argue, and he would even yell at times, particularly not funny, but kind of funny situation. My husband was actually trying to do some work and he was on a video call, and he was in one of the bedrooms with the door shut, and my father-in-law, just in a fury, tore into the bedroom and just blurting out a bunch of stuff. And my husband was just sitting there trying to explain to his coworkers what was going on. And I was in there trying to, Papa, can you come with me? Can you please come with me? We got him out of the room, and my goodness, it was shocking. It was, again, you can know clinically what it is, but when you're actually seeing it in person, it's another matter altogether. I mentioned my great-grandfather from many, many years ago. His deal was he would wake up in the middle of the night, and in the overnight hours, he would reach over and he would turn on his little bedroom or his lamp by his bed. He would start yelling for my grandmother, and when she would come in there, he would be all worked up, wanting to know where his money was, wanting to know, I think he asked a lot about his clothing. He was really fixed on those two things. Several other things that just out of the nowhere, he would just start talking about it. And then he was agitated about it, and he was angry about it. And it was very, very disconcerting for her, because again, this feels like it was 100 years ago. She didn't know exactly what it was, did not know what to do about it. And of course, as I said, I was a teenager. I didn't know anything about it. But in the years since that time, obviously, I've cared for my own grandparents. Neither one of them actually had any sundowning episodes. But as I began to do research on the disease that both of them had at the same time, both of my grandparents were diagnosed with dementia at the same time. As I began to do research, I came across this thing about sundowning, and I thought that's what he had. That's what was going on. And then again, I've lived it just watching my father-in-law have these episodes. The sundowning problem is, it doesn't seem, again, we talk about it at like sundown. We talk about it when the sun starts getting dusky, but it can hit at any time of the day. It doesn't really seem confined into a particular time. When you see a sudden increase in agitation that you really can't attribute a cause, perhaps they have sudden agitation because they're hungry, or maybe a medication got missed and that was helping them to stay calm. And now, since they don't have it, now they're agitated. So there might be some factors like that that you can attribute an actual, oh, I see what happened here. Let me fix it. Now the problem is resolved. But this sundowning thing, doctors actually don't know what causes it. There is no definitive thing that they have come up with to say, oh, yes, well, the reason people do this is X, Y, Z, or whatever happens. There are some speculations about it. One is if the patient is hungry, have they slept well the night before, things like that, things that would upset the dynamic of a person without dementia. If you don't get enough sleep, you tend to be cranky, So those are some things to think about. They doctors really recommend that you have them evaluated by their physician. Don't just try to say, oh, it's sundowning. Well, then let me do this, this, and this to try to make it better. Let's, serve some hot tea or something. That may actually help. And if it does, that's great. But generally speaking, there's really no way to treat it as far as not medicinally. With my father-in-law, he reached a point once they got to the Houston area, he was in an assisted living community. And in that community, he actually became violent. He broke a window and climbed out of it. And then he actually hit one of the employees. And she kind of laughed when it happened. She said, look, it's not the first time it's happened and it won't be the last. She's worked with patients who have cognitive decline for a long time. So she had seen it before. And we really appreciated her being so very, very nice about it. Because she understood this was not my father-in-law being ugly. This was the disease doing the talking, if you will. So she was very nice about it, but we did see quite a lot of that. And so the result of that was that his doctor did put him on medications that kind of helped slow him down. And that did help. But generally speaking, if you're keeping a patient in the home, and it is interesting how many patients deal with it. The numbers seem to indicate it's approximately 1 in 5 all their dementia experience. And dementia is something that can go on for years, as many of you know, I'm sure. What is recommended is make sure the room never gets really dark. If you find that the sundown period is when this agitation begins to occur, try to turn on lamps ahead of time. Oh, you look out and you realize, oh, look, it's 4 o'clock, coming up 5 o'clock. Let's turn some lamps on so that we can alleviate the dark instead of letting it just get really dusky and then turning the lights on. Go ahead and turn them on a little bit earlier. Sometimes the dark and sometimes the long shadows in the room can seem to stir that up. So it is recommended, try to keep the room well lit so that they can see clearly what's going on. Sometimes sundowning can become so severe, it can actually lead to hallucinations. There have been patients who have experienced seeing things that aren't there. Some of this can be alleviated simply by turning on the lights. If the agitation starts and you see that it's already started, the best thing to do in that case is to remember, this is the adage of dealing with dementia, do not argue with them. And this is so hard. I know from my own experience, this can be very, very difficult. Try not to argue with them. Try to keep yourself as calm as possible. The more calm you stay, the odds are they can stay calm as well, or at least kind of go back to, kind of come down off of that high state of agitation. It can help. You want to sort of strategize how they eat. You want to make sure if they're going to have caffeine, make sure they have it in the morning so that as you get toward the evening, they're not wired on caffeine, because all that's going to do is make the situation worse. You want to really try to avoid giving them like anything that's high sugar, well, anytime really, but late in the day particularly. It's recommended that you give the patient a good big lunch meal and then let them eat lighter in the evening. And this way it helps slow everything down so that they're not so full and feeling, like, oh gosh, now I'm too full to even lay down and go to bed. I can't relax. We don't want to have anything like that. So a big lunch at in the middle of the day and then go for something a little bit lighter. Sometimes these are things that can have an effect on sundowning. The biggest thing is, again, just stay calm, because the more I noticed in our case with my father-in-law, when sometimes one of us might be, you're trying to move, and everybody knows how stressful that is. You're trying to pack boxes and you've got everything in the house is torn up. So there's a lot of stress going with that. And my father-in-law would get going, like I say, it was between 1 and 3 in the afternoon. Anywhere in that window was fair game. And oh my, he would get agitated. And of course we would get agitated, and tempers would flare. And, my mother-in-law would get all upset. And it was just a mess. So we had to all sort of back down from that and say, okay, wait a minute. This is not Paw. He's not doing this deliberately. This is a sundowning situation. And so we need to do what we can to keep him calm. And generally, as we would calm down, he would settle on down too. And check in with them. Ask the patient, ask the loved one, is there anything I can do for you? Is there something you need? They might be in a position where they can actually verbalize if they have a need. For example, if they're hungry, or maybe they're in pain, maybe they've got a headache, or something else might be hurting. Perhaps they just need to take a Tylenol or some ibuprofen or something like that. That can help. So those kinds of things, you want to keep those things in mind. This is really tough, though, because for one thing, knowing what it is, trying to distinguish sundowning from regular dementia agitation, this can be really hard. That's why I suggested earlier, and I'll say it again, please have your loved one evaluated by their doctor. If you suspect that it's sundowning, go to the physician and tell them, hey, I'm concerned that we're dealing with this. And then let the doctor make that call, and then let the doctor decide what the best way to handle it is. They may have a recommendation they can make, or they may say, let's just try to ride it out and see if it gets worse, or see if we want to try to look at medication. But definitely walk through that with your physician. That's what we wound up having to do, talking to my father-in-law's physician and explaining what was going on. And then, of course, like I said, in our case, once he was sort of a game changer in our case, because he was then sent to the hospital, at which point the doctors in the hospital then said, we need to address this. And so they put him on some pretty strong stuff just to get control of the situation and try to settle him down. He has since been weaned off of that medication and actually seems to be doing quite well. So it's tough. This is just a tough thing. Sundowning is a tough place to be with a patient. Again, Alzheimer's is tough. Any form of dementia is tough. But when you sprinkle in that extra little sundowning, it's more intense. There's much more of there can almost be a fear element too. The patient becomes so agitated and so angry that it's not telling what they might do. And in order to keep yourself safe as the caregiver, and in order to keep the patient safe, we need to recognize the issue of sundowning. And then again, like I say, talk with the doctor and see if there's anything that needs to be done to help them out.
I'm back.
There we are.
Thank you so much for that information. I was listening along, and I just find it so interesting. And of course, it's so, like you said, it's 1 in 5, they say now. That's
right.
Such a large portion of the population. And so it affects a lot more people than I think we realize.
Right.
So just thank you so much for providing this information and this help.
Glad to.
If people are looking for some more caregiver resources and information, what would be the best way to attend the conference this weekend?
Well, they can visit the conference website. It's empoweringthecaregiver.com. Just those 3 words, empoweringthecaregiver.com. And everything about the conference is on that site. Everything can be seen. You can see who the speakers are, what topics are going to be discussed, and generally get a feel for the schedule of the day. Registration will open at 8 Saturday morning. And then about 8:45, we'll start making kind of opening announcements. And the first speaker starts at 9 o'clock. And actually, that would be me. And we have a great team. I am so honored to be on the platform with some of the speakers that we have. We've got professional speakers. We have the pastor of the church is actually going to talk, because prior to being a pastor, he was actually a clinical psychologist, and he worked with patients. He worked with people like caregivers. He's been a caregiver himself. So he is it's just amazing that he's going to speak with us. I'm so glad we've got people talking about safety for seniors and for their caregivers. People are going to address Medicare and Medicaid, the differences and the different types of long-term care insurance, things like that are available to help people pay for it all, because that's a rough area. A lot of people just don't have the resources, so they need to know that there's help available. So we're going to address that as well.
And for those of you who may not be able to attend this weekend, you can always sign up online, because we're going to be recording all of the sessions. And so you'll be able to watch the recordings at home. Takes about 24 to 48 hours, sometimes a little bit longer, just to get the videos processed and up online. But you'll have access to those, and you can share it with your friends and family who may not live in Texas.
Exactly.
So it's just a really great opportunity if you're looking to connect with other caregivers, if you're looking for some more information. Would be super excited to have you be there or join us online. And of course, Care Partners is going to be there as an exhibitor. Come say hi to our table. We'll be there to answer any of your questions about our programs. And we're super excited as well.
Oh, we are too. We're so thrilled, because last year everything was online. So this year, to have it where we have it in person and online, I can't tell you how excited I am about that. And it's going to be so nice to actually speak to live, actual people again. It's been a while since we've seen actual people in the audience. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think a lot of our vendors were as well. A lot of the folks that are coming in the exhibition hall have expressed they are really excited at the opportunity to be face-to-face with people again. The ones who can come, we're really excited.
Exactly. And so if you are able to attend, there's going to be so many resources. It's going to be a really great day. And again, you can find all that information at empoweringthecaregiver.com, or you can visit carepartnerstexas.org. In our event section on our calendar, you can find the information and signups there as well. And I guess we'll end with this. If you do want to connect with Leah, if you have questions, or you also have a book. We said you're an author. You're finishing up your companion guide to go along with that. So everyone at home can be looking out for that as well. So yeah, if you want some more resources or information, Leah is a wonderful resource.
Thank you very much. Glad to help. Anything I can do.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. I think we're going to end it here. We'll see you again soon for another hot topic, and we hope to see you this weekend as well. Have a good afternoon, everybody.